Let us begin by waving greeting to our friends joining us by Zoom and Zoomies waving to us Roomies.
Your microphone's not on.
Miles?
So you turn off. It's off. Okay.
How about now?
Yep.
Okay. Tommy. Sorry. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lynchburg. Here we gather in a spirit of freedom and friendship. Whoever you are, whatever your beliefs, whatever your age, and whomever you love, you are welcome here. As we work together for justice, compassion, and peace, we also acknowledge with humility that our buildings sit on Monacan land, as does my house. My name is Garry DeVol. I've been a member of this congregation for 51 years, 52 maybe, and I'm a member of the Sunday Services Committee. If you're with us for the first time, we are glad you chose to be here this morning to participate in the service for this church community that we love. We would be happy to tell you more about our community during virtual social time following the service. If you would like to receive our monthly newsletter and Friday email updates, you can fill out one of the yellow cards in the pockets on the back of some of the seats in front of you and drop it in the offering basket. If you're on Zoom, there's a newcomer connection form found on the visitor page on our website at uulynchburg.org. You may also wish to join our Facebook group. For those of you on Zoom, please note that the order of service is or will be in the chat to the right of your screen if you're using a PC. If you're using a phone, the link to the chat is at the bottom of your screen. As we enter our time of worship, we light the flame of our chalice, sharing these words. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, O Spirit of life. Our opening words this morning were written by Richard S. Gilbert. We meet on holy ground, brought into being as life encounters life, as personal histories merge into the communal story, as we take on the pride and pain of our companions, as we separate selves, become community, as separate selves become community. How desperate is our need for one another, our silent beckoning to our neighbors, our invitation to share life and death together, our welcome into the lives of those we meet, and their welcome into our own. May our souls capture this treasured time. May our spirits celebrate our meeting in this time and in this space, for we meet on holy ground. Please rise in body or spirit as you are able and join me in singing hymn number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome all our young ones to join me down front for a story time. Good morning. That's very cool. I like that. So upstairs in our RE class today, we are going to be talking about justice and generosity and how those two things can work together to help make this world a better place. And this is what we're continuing to talk about this summer as we learn about our UU values using Legos and stories and all kinds of fun things. And the book I have for us this morning is called Those Shoes by Mary Beth Bolts. I have dreams about those shoes. Black high tops, 2 white stripes. Grandma, I want them. There's no room for want around here, just need, Grandma says. And what you need are new boots for winter. Brandon T comes to school in those shoes. He says he's the fastest runner now, not me. I was always the fastest before those shoes came along. Nate comes to school in those shoes. Antonio and I count how many times Nate goes to the bathroom. 7 times in one day, just so he can walk up and down the hall real slow. Next, Alan Jacoby and Terrence each get a pair. Then one day, in the middle of kickball, one of my shoes comes apart. Looks like you could use a new pair, Jeremy, Mr. Alfrey, the guidance counselor, says. He brings out a box of shoes and other stuff he has for kids who need things. He helps me find the only shoes that are my size, Velcro, like the ones my little cousin Marshall wears. He can't even tie his shoes. They have an animal on them from a cartoon I don't think any kid ever watched. When I come back to the classroom, Alan Jacoby takes one look at my Mr. Alfrey shoes and laughs. And so do Terrence, Brandon T, and everyone else. The only kid not laughing is Antonio Parker. At home, Grandma says, "How kind of Mr. Alfrey." I nod and turn my back. I'm not going to cry about any dumb shoes, but when I'm writing my spelling words later, every word looks like the word shoes, and my grip is so tight on my pencil, I think it might bust. On Saturday, Grandma says, "Let's check out those shoes you're wanting so much. I got a little bit of money set aside. Might be enough. You never know." At the shoe store, Grandma turns those shoes over so she can check the price. When she sees it, she sits down heavy. "Maybe they wrote it down wrong," I say. Grandma shakes her head. Then I remember the thrift shops. What if there's a rich kid who outgrew his, or maybe got 2 pairs for Christmas and had to give one of them away? We ride the bus to the first thrift shop. Black cowboy boots, pink slippers, sandals, high heels, every kind of shoes, except the ones I want. We ride the bus to the second thrift shop. Not a pair of those shoes in sight. Around the corner is the third thrift shop. I see something in the window. Black shoes with 2 white stripes, high tops, perfect shape, $2.50. Those shoes. My heart is pounding hard as I take off my shoes and hitch up my baggy socks. "How exciting," Grandma says. "What size are they?" I shove my foot into the first shoe, curling my toes to get my heel in. "I don't know, but I think they fit." Grandma kneels on the floor and feels for my toes at the end of the shoe. "Oh, Jeremy," she says, "I can't spend good money on shoes that don't fit." I pull the other shoe on and try to walk around. "They're okay," I say, holding my breath and praying that my toes will fall off right then and there. But my toes don't fall off. I buy them anyway with my own money, and I squeeze them on and limp to the bus stop. At home, a few days later, Grandma puts a new pair of snow boots in my closet and doesn't say a word about my 2 big feet shuffling around in my 2 small shoes. Sometimes shoes stretch, I say. Grandma gives me a hug. I check every day, but those shoes haven't stretched enough. I have to wear my Mr. Alfreys to school instead. One day during math, I glance at Antonio's shoes. One of them is taped up, and his feet look smaller than mine. After school, I head to the park to think Antonio is there, the only kid who didn't laugh at my Mr. Alfrey shoes. We shoot baskets. A loose piece of tape on Antonio's shoes smacks the concrete every time he jumps. I think, I'm not going to do it. We leap off the swings. I'm not going to do it. We race from one end of the playground to the other. I'm not going to do it, I say. Do what? Antonio says, breathing hard. Grandma calls me for supper and invites Antonio over too. After supper, he spies my shoes. How come you don't wear them? Antonio asks. I shrug. My hands are sweaty. I can feel him wishing those shoes were his. That night, I am awake for a long time thinking about Antonio. When morning comes, I try on my shoes one last time. Then, before I can change my mind, the shoes are in my coat. Snow is beginning to fall as I run across the street to Antonio's apartment. I put the shoes in front of his door, push the doorbell, and run. At school, Antonio is smiling big in his brand new shoes. I feel happy when I look at his face and mad when I look at my Mr. Alfrey shoes. But later, when it's time for recess, something happens. Everywhere, there is snow. Leave your shoes in the hall and change into your boots, the teacher announces. Leave your shoes in the hall. It's then I remember what I have in my backpack. New boots. New black boots that no kid has ever worn before. Standing in line to go to recess, Antonio leans forward and says, "Thanks." I smile and give him a nudge. "Let's race!" And off they go. All right, so we will go upstairs and talk about our book some more. Yeah, his boots are really nice, and they're perfect for the snow day, aren't they? I see. He can run fast. That tells me that he's probably a pretty fast kid, and he doesn't need shoes to make him go super fast, huh? Yeah. That's right. He's got the speed in his body, and that's pretty cool.
But still, but the other people with the black shoes, they can run faster.
Yeah. Nora?
Tennis shoes are better for running. That's probably what he's thinking, but he's changing it into the black boots.
Yeah.
Black shoes because he wants the.
Yeah, tennis shoes are better for running, but he realizes now that the black boots are probably going to be better because of the snow. All right, let's head upstairs and we'll talk some more about it. David, we're ready to sing out.
The ministries of our church are supported by the love, talents, and efforts of our many volunteers and staff, as well as the monetary support of our members and friends. If you found this church to be of value in your life, then I invite you to be generous as our morning offering is freely given and gratefully receive. If you're on Zoom, you can find instructions on how to contribute to the donate link under About Us at lynchburg.org, uulynchburg.org. Thank you.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
We receive these monetary gifts along with the gifts of your time, work, and creativity, which also sustain our congregation. As together we give generously to support our congregation, let us also commit ourselves to a unity of spirit to make manifest a more just, peaceful, and loving world. It is our tradition to honor the whole of our lives, and so you're invited to share the joys, sorrows, and for meditation this morning, I thought I'd read a selection from a portion of a book called Zen Flesh, Zen Bones that I've had over the years 2 copies of. I have 2 because the paperback I had originally fell apart. I now have a nice slipcase edition. And this is from the section entitled 101 Zen Stories, selection number 78, and it's titled Real Prosperity. A rich man asked Sengai to write something for the continued prosperity of his family so that it might be treasured from generation to generation. Sengai obtained a large sheet of paper and wrote, "Father dies, son dies, grandson dies." The rich man became angry. "I asked you to write something for the happiness of my family. Why do you make such a joke as this?" "No joke is intended," explained Sengai. "If before you yourself die, your son should die, this would grieve you greatly. If your grandson should die before your son, both of you would be brokenhearted. If your family, generation after generation, passes away in the order I have named, it will be the natural course of life. I call this real prosperity."
For our music for meditation today, I'm going to be singing What a Wonderful World. And I just also wanted to share my bedtime routine with our girls is we don't typically say any sort of prayers, although I think Leah does sometimes on her own. But we sing about our day. I just make up a little tune about what happened during the day and what we're grateful for. And I also sing this song. This was a book that Leah got when she was a little girl. And it's really just the lyrics of the What a Wonderful World song. So I sing that and we look at the pages of the book as well. So I'm going to do that with you all. What a wonderful world. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day and the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
What is mortality? I thought there'd be a clear dictionary definition, but not so much. Mortality is the fact that all living things die. The awareness of this has led to such sayings as, nothing is certain but death and taxes, and being born is a death sentence. What happens after we die is a subject for which almost every religion has an answer. And I say almost every religion only because I don't know enough about every religion to be sure. Every religion that I am aware of has both a creation story and an explanation about what happens after death. Hindu and Buddhist beliefs have the individual in a cycle of birth, death, and rebirth in a series of lifetimes, with the individual either progressing or regressing based on good or bad behaviors during each lifetime. The ultimate goal is reaching a divine or enlightened state, or nirvana, that ends the cycle. Certain terms from these religions have made their way into popular culture, such as karma and nirvana. Christian sects, particularly fundamentalist ones, believe in heaven and hell, and then accepting Jesus as a personal savior is the ticket to heaven, and failure to do so is the ticket to hell. Unitarian Universalism began as an outgrowth of early Christianity, with the Arian view of Jesus not being divine becoming heresy when the belief in a unitary deity was discarded in favor of a belief in a Holy Trinity at the Council of Nicaea in 325 of the Common Era. According to Wikipedia, since I know very little firsthand about Judaism, Judaism is a monotheistic religion and the oldest of the three Abrahamic faiths of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Three main tenets of Judaism are monotheism, identity, and covenant, the agreement between God and the Jewish people. Life after death is not a central belief in Judaism, and Jewish scripture doesn't say much about it. Instead, Judaism focuses on people's actions and purpose in their lives on earth. However, some Jews do have beliefs in the afterlife, including, and there's a whole list of things here. Orthodox Jews believe that people who follow God's laws will go to heaven. Some believe S-H-E-O-L, Sheol, is the underworld, where all the dead go regardless of their actions or ethnicity. Others believe it's a place of waiting where souls are cleansed and purified and then sent to Gan Eden or Gehenna. Some believe Gehenna is a place of punishment and torment. Some Jews believe that everyone will be resurrected on the day of judgment so they can be judged. Others believe that only those who are morally good will be resurrected. Some Jews believe that they will be judged by God when they die, and then again by the Messiah on the day of judgment. So, we can see there's a large variety of beliefs about the existence of an afterlife, or not, and about the nature of that afterlife. What does the knowledge that our lives are finite mean to us? When I was in my late 20s and early 30s, I spent a number of years working as a construction worker on the campus of what was then the Lynchburg Baptist College, now Liberty University. And many of my coworkers during the summer were LBC students. Since I was often working basically by myself with a helper, I sometimes spent several work weeks in a row with one single person, who sometimes would be one of the LBC students. And although I might have had a tendency to think of the students as a monolithic block before that experience, I learned that there was a wide variety of personalities represented, from quiet people who were very conscientious to at least one who presented himself almost as a libertine, insisting that his behavior made no difference because he was saved. I guess heaven and hell don't always serve well as carrot and stick. In January of this year, I turned 74 years old. I have exceeded the 70 referenced in Psalm 90 of the King James Version of the Bible. And I understand that 70 sounds young to some of you, but it's quite old to others. I'm talking about you, Molly. I'm also roughly a year younger than my father was when he died. These facts have been rattling around in my brain for a while, and I suspect in your own ways, many of you may have similar facts from your own lives that remind you that our lives, as we know them, have an ending. If we and our parents are lucky, we outlive them. I've heard any number of times that a parent surviving a child suffers a pain like no other. Some of us have felt that pain. Among the 4 siblings who make up my nuclear family, we collectively have 6 children, all of whom survive, but there were also 2 pregnancies that did not end in live births. The fact that the fetuses did not become crying babies does not mean that they were not mourned. Those children who survived their parents' demise grieve for their loss. My father died at 75 when I was 36. My mother died at 80 when I was 48. The fact that I and my siblings were adults at the time of their deaths meant that we had many more resources and skills than children, but at the same time, we became orphans. My wife, Sarah, was diagnosed with breast cancer on March 20th, 1995. We had been married about 11 years and 9 months. The cancer was at an advanced stage, and although her oncologist wouldn't discuss odds with her, we learned subsequently that the particular type of cancer and stage of development, she had approximately a 5% survival chance. Aggressive treatment with 3 rounds of chemotherapy, followed by surgery, followed by 3 additional rounds of chemotherapy, followed by radiation therapy, took almost an entire year. Frequent follow-up checkups lasting several more years kept the threat of recurrence at the front of our consciousnesses. We knew that our time together might end at any time. Fortunately for us, the cancer has not returned. It's now more than 29 years later. For the first 5 years, we were concerned much more about recurrence. The statistics on cancer are such that the risk of recurrence dropped dramatically after 5 years. we celebrated the 5-year mark with a vacation trip. As time has passed, each of us has aged and developed various ailments and infirmities that have come more to the forefront of our consciousnesses, but hardly a week goes by with one or the other of us expressing appreciation for both of us still being around to complain about whatever it is that ails us. That awareness also affected some decisions I made when I retired in 2017. We had idly been talking about touring the country in an RV for a long time, mainly on Sarah's part. I'm sure that her image at the time the discussion began was of driving a small motorhome around and stopping at various points of interest. This goes back to a couple who were friends of her parents who would, at random and unannounced times, appear at her parents' house in Knoxville and stay for an indeterminate amount of time, apparently assuming that they would be welcome. I can't remember their last name, but the couple were Blanche and Harley, famous in her family for rolling up at supper time. We hadn't talked much about the RV for a while before I retired, but within a couple of months after I retired, we were watching YouTube videos, checking out dealer and manufacturer websites, and beginning to visit dealerships to look at what was available and to try to decide what it was we were looking for. This went on for about 6 months when we made a decision to purchase the travel trailer that we still own. The decision to make such a large investment was unusually quick for both of us, but the awareness of the fact that we did and do not have unlimited time gave the need to make a choice an immediacy it might not have otherwise had. And I was struggling for the word there. Urgency didn't quite say it, but anyway, that decision has proven to be a good one, as we have enjoyed both the places we have been and the opportunities we've had to spend time together doing things we enjoy. And you really do have time together when you're sharing a 200 square foot space. So how does this relate to mortality? I personally don't have any strong beliefs about what will happen to me after death. This gives me the freedom or burden of needing to make my time in this life as full of meaning and purpose as I can. Without being morbid about it, I will die. And I have no idea, and have never had any idea, of how much time I have left. Sarah's illness and recovery in particular have made me feel incredibly lucky every day I've gotten to spend with her since. Any number of events in my own life have given me the same feeling of being lucky, from foolishness as a teenage driver to one night late waking up heading toward the median near the end of a long journey, to experiencing a serious bicycle crash in 2020 with a concussion and broken bone in my back, and that could have been much worse. And it was on March 20th, no less. I'm sure that some, if not all of you, if you think about it, have episodes in your own lives that you've been lucky to survive. What it means to me is I feel blessed, not in a God has blessed me way, but in a I have been given good fortune that I do not deserve. That can be either a burden or an incentive. Near the end of The Search for Private Ryan, Tom Hanks' character, as he is dying, tells Ryan, for whom a number of other soldiers have given their lives, earn this. Earn the right to deserve the sacrifices made for him. I feel a little of that. We owe it to ourselves to be the best people we can. I also recently saw a small segment of a tribute to Bob Newhart on television, in which he was asked something like, "How would you like to be remembered?" His response started with, "As a good person." I think that's a laudable goal for us all. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing hymn number 326, Let All the Beauty We Have Known.
Let all the beauty we have known illuminate our hearts and minds. Rejoice in wonders daily known, in faith and joy and love that binds. We celebrate with singing hearts the loveliness of sky and earth, the inspiration of the arts, in miracle of every birth. Life's music and its poetry surround and bless us through our days. For these we sing in harmony, together giving thanks and praise.
As our service draws to a close, let us extinguish our chalice as we say these words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our closing words were written by Mother Teresa. May we respond better to risks and dangers with a beloved community who can be counted on as a woven basket that encompasses the gifts for protection, for honor, for ceremony, and for expressions of interconnectedness. May we prevail in our intentions to make a gift of the world to the next generations of beings living and non-living that help it all come together for good.
Have you heard about summer snow? When it falls on you, your blood runs cold. But don't you sweat your pretty skin, 'cause it melts away for it sinks in. And you dream about this very night, when the moon runs down the summer sky. Could it be the morning of the spring, when the sea runs dry and stop to say? Have you heard from the sky all about it? Down the river, high tide flows around it. Through the whispers of pines, I hear them sing. The more you love, the more you live. ever feel like going back when nothing seemed to be a drag. You read until your legs gave way, then you cried and got back up again. And it's real to think that I could fly across a broken bridge in the fading light. Never thought ahead of my 2 feet. Never had a care in the world, you see. Have you heard from the sky all about it? Down the river, high tide flows around it. Through the whispers of pines, I hear them sing. The more you love, the more you live. Have you heard from the sky all about it? Down the river, high tide flows around it. Through the whispers of pines, I hear them sing. The more you love, the more you live. Have you heard from the sky all about it? Down the river, high tide flows around it. Through the whispers of pines, I hear them sing. The more you love, the more you live. The more you love, the more you live.
I understand you have, is that right? Molly? Mike? Well,
Gary, did you say something to me? Oh,
not that Mike.
oh, sorry.
I enjoyed your talk very much, Gary. I've got a few years on you. I'm very lucky in that my father lived a good, long life, but at the end of his life, he'd always been very supportive of my choice of my being a Unitarian, even though it wasn't the fundamentalist religion I was born in. He thought I lived a good life and did good things. But as he got towards the end of his life, he was going to go to heaven and I wasn't going to be there, and he wanted to get some things all fixed up. And I am so disturbed to find that I am in that same place. I'm no longer able to be so tolerant. It's, we need to do it this way. And I think it's knowing I haven't got a whole lot of years and a whole lot less strength and energy to make it happen.
I had a brush with mortality in 1968, so how long ago? That's a long time ago.
Long time.
I stepped on a bee, and I was already allergic to bee stings, but this one was going to send me into anaphylactic shock had I not gotten to the emergency room. But as I was losing consciousness, I've never been so peaceful in my life, and my only thought was, Mama's really gonna hate this. And that was it. And I was out, and they brought me back to life. But it's a very comforting thought that on your way to death, it might just be peaceful.
The story you read today, you read, I think, years and years ago about the order of death.
This is about the 4th or 5th time I've used
Yeah,
that particular
but
reader.
anyhow, I witnessed the death of my father while my grandfather still was alive. And I watched a man who had passed as my father's brother look his age. Instant.
I really appreciated your talk, and I really appreciate being a Unitarian Universalist and being able to think about these things and sort them out in a variety of ways as I go through my life. This past week, I had someone ask me a question. She's someone who helps clean our house, and she said to me, she asked me a question I didn't know how to answer about the way, in an effective way for her. She said, I know you used to be a minister, and I said, yes. And she said, well, what do you think about cremation? She said, I've cremated some of my cats that I love dearly, and they're not going to be able to rise up again at the time they die. So I kind of stumbled my way through trying to figure out how to bring her comfort, and yet it made me very aware of being very grateful for a church in which our children can ask questions like that in church school, where we can, as adults, can ask things and kind of sort them through from a variety of backgrounds. And I think it's so important to be able to keep asking and feeling safe in asking questions and listening to others' points of views and finding it in your own heart.
I also enjoyed your talk, and it made me think about things that have been going on recently in my life and in the past 10 years, and then again this year when my brother passed away. It made me very aware that when we come into this world, we struggle and work to be born. And also, it comes to us that dying is very hard. There's a struggle. It's not easy like what you see in movies and TVs. It is a struggle for the person doing the dying, and I think that's what makes it I can't think of the word, not exactly holy, but something, I'm missing a word. It's a very important process, and I'm sorry, I lose words, but anyway.
Mike has his hand up.
Go ahead.
I have a couple of thoughts. One is, I realized a couple of years ago, after telling or saying to many people and patients that the order of things is not for parents to see their children die, that in fact, a couple hundred years ago, families would have 10 children in hopes that 2 or 3 or 4 would survive into adulthood. And, I'm not sure what to make of that, but I think it is a fact. The other thing is that I think that we sometimes tend to overgeneralize. Sometimes dying appears to be a struggle. Other times, no, it's not. And I say that both from personal near-death experiences as well as from practicing medicine for a few decades. Nothing very deep there, I'm sorry.
That reminds me of the talk I had with my mother shortly after her mother died. She had gone out to be with her when she had surgery for perforated ulcer, and was told by the surgeon afterwards it was going to depend on how much will to live she had. And she wasn't perking up that much, and my mother reported one of the conversations she had with her. She said, I think I might have lived long enough. And she died shortly after that. Well, looks like that might be all. Oh, Dick. I'm not hearing you, Dick. I'm still not hearing you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to put a word in as a theist that I think there is a source for everything, and I think the source is benign. And as a benign source, I think that we will go on. And so when I look at death, I look at death as a natural thing that's going to happen to me, to everyone. And I think that there will be something worthwhile afterwards. That's my own personal thing. Thank you.
Well, if there's nothing else, refreshments await.